On today's show, I'm breaking down a fantastic Major League debut by Josh Jung and the Rangers being almost guaranteed to have a better record than last year. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Monday, September 12th. Your Rangers are 60-79, officially tying their win total for last season. So they would have to go completely winless this year to have the exact same record as last season. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Welcome to the freaking big leagues. Josh Jung hitting a home run in your first at-bat, pulling a jerk, some Profar. The only other Ranger to have done it. He did it 10 years ago to the day, which feels absolutely insane that it's been that long. He is the first Ranger to homer in their big league debut since Joey Gallo. There's been so many Joshes that have been making major league debuts. Josh Smith is back in the big leagues and playing pretty much every day, which is exciting to see. He is, not produced a whole lot so far, but I'm glad that he is back in the big leagues. It's good to see him back there, and he's playing a whole lot of left field, which is interesting. They're shifting things around. Bubba Thompson is playing some center field. Leote is taking some more days off, and we're just seeing a little bit different of an outfield than we have seen so far. But this was a fantastic major league debut by Josh Jung. Hit a home run in his first at bat, a 1-2, 84-mile-an-hour changeup. Literally could not be any more served on a platter. He worked that count to get the pitch he wanted, and when he got it from Ross Stripling, he did not miss it and drove that thing into over the left center field wall, which is just kind of poetically perfect. That's how he made his first major league at bat end. When he was a kid growing up, he said he wanted a homer in his first major league at bat, which, a lot of kids say that, but he said it consistently, and he made it happen for himself. When his parents were being interviewed by Emily Jones, they told that story, and just it was so special that he actually got to make it happen. That was one of his two hits. The other one was a bloop single that fell in short center field. Had a multi-hit game, and he also stole his first first base at the major league level, which is a fitting way to do it. A nice debut for him. And the other thing that's poetic about him hitting a home run on his first at bat is the knock on him coming out of college was that, well, I don't know if this kid can really hit for power. They knew he was complete hit to all fields kind of guy. He was a guy who offensively know what he was doing at the plate. He was going to walk at a high rate. He was going to put together competitive at-bats, but they're like, I don't know if he's going to hit for power. I don't really know where that concern came from. At Texas Tech, he had double-digit home runs in his second and his third seasons at Texas Tech, had 20 doubles his final year there, had 6 triples his sophomore season. He had an OPS of over 1,100 in both those seasons. He was hitting the ball hard. He was hitting it all fields. He was using a little bit more opposite field. He was using the entire field, not so much focused on just that pull power. The raw power wasn't really as much there, which, is fine. He was 19, 20, 21 years old when he was playing at Texas Tech. The power's going to come when he grew up, and everyone who really knew a thing about baseball knew that was going to happen for him, and he showed that his first actual full season that he got under his wings in 2021. Actually, I should say there was a little bit of concern in 2019. His first full minor league season that was supposed to be 2020. That was at the Complex League, had a shortened minor league season in 2019, made 40 games in Hickory and 4 in the Arizona Complex League. He hit 1 home run in each of those. Yeah, 40 games, 1 home run. People are like, oh, there's that concern about the power. It's not going to show up. Well, it showed up in bunches the next year after he came back from that stress fracture in his foot. He hit 19 home runs in 78 games combined in Double A and Triple A. He showed it off this year in let's see, 23 games in Round He had those 6 home runs. He had 3 home runs in the 8 games coming back from the Complex League, and he already has 2 doubles at the Major League level in 4 games so far. I'm recording this during the first game of the doubleheader, the stupidest decision that that this schedule made on this Rangers team. They had to completely scrap everything from that first month and screw everything else up because of the stupid lockout. I'll get into that a little bit later on in the show, as well as some minor league promotions. But this is all about Josh Jung. I am so happy for the kid, and of course, the first ball found him. Of course it did. The very first ball of the game found him at third base. That's just kind of what happens to guys who are in there, either at new positions or making debuts. It's just the ball's going to find you. It might not always do that, but there was a lot of plays, a lot of balls hit to third base, and he made some pretty darn good plays. That first play, he wasn't able to quite get out the speedy runner, charging a ground ball, but he fielded it well. He did the bell trade, picked it up barehanded through its first base, but the runner was just a little bit too fast to get him there. Was able to turn the first part of a double play his next opportunity, and then was able to get a couple of routine ground balls to third base, where he was able to throw out the runner without much hassle. But there was a little bit of concern from the press box. A couple of people that I saw talk with Levi. Levi wrote a thing about being concerned about Josh Jung's arm, which I initially foolishly made the decision to say, oh, no, it's the shoulder. It's not completely back. But no. That was his left shoulder. That was his non-throwing shoulder. But I've seen this guy make a lot of throws. I watched him from the time he was a freshman. I was still in college when this guy was a freshman in college, and my one scouting win was saying that he was going to be a first-round pick in his first season that I saw him there as a freshman. I said the same thing about Shea Langeliers, and I said both of them would be big leaguers. Now, both of them were first-rounders and big leaguers. Look at me. I'm so smart. It's really just Josh Jung being good. It's not me being smart. It's Josh Jung being good. But he's looked fine at third base. Nothing exceptional. Nothing, too bad. There were a couple of misplays, a couple of balls that jumped on him a little bit quickly. He didn't quite make the right read on him. But it's been nothing egregious. He's been fine there. And offensively, the first game was nice, and then Sunday was really not a great game for him. He went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, his first big league golden sombrero. In this game, he just got an RBI double that halved the deficit. He has put together some quality at bats, but he has been striking out a little bit. But that'll happen for anybody so far in the big leagues. Through those first 3 games, he was hitting 267 on base of 267, OPS of 867. Does not have a walk at the major league level so far, but I'm pretty sure that's going to happen with time. The guy is a patient hitter. He's going to be given some walks, but he's been wanting to come out swinging in his major league at bat. First major league at bats, he has done so. He has made an impression, and I am really excited to see what he's going to do. And it's kind of fitting that his first game was a 1-run loss. The story of the Texas Rangers this year. Coming up, we're going to get a little bit more into this weekend game, some minor league news, some promotions that I was not expecting, but I'm very, very excited about, and a guy who is no longer with the Rangers. But first, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so the network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, Josh Jung had a great weekend, but the Rangers overall just did not quite have it this weekend. They lost 4-3 in the opener. A solid performance by Dane Dunning, 5 2/3 innings with 5 strikeouts, just 2 walks, 3 runs, all of which were earned, and a home run against a very, very hot-hitting, very talented lineup of the Toronto Blue Jays. Solid 2 innings of work from Brock Burke, including a really nicely turned double play that he started through to second base, and the Rangers were able to turn 2, got him through 2 innings of scoreless work without a walk and 3 strikeouts. Some nice stuff there. Jose Leclerc was credited with the loss, gave up 1 run on 1 hit and a walk in this one, was just not quite able to send the Rangers to the bottom of the ninth inning with a tie game. Josh Jung was up and could not make the most of his at bat, struck out against a very, very good reliever in Jordan Romano, who leads Major League Baseball. That was his 32nd save of the season, has a sub 2 ERA, just a really, really nasty pitcher, but not a great outing for Jose Leclerc. Not quite good enough for the Rangers offense, who turned it on the next day, but it didn't really matter. This was a rough day for Kohei Arihara. It turns out his last start with the Texas Rangers. He was DFA'd on Sunday after a really honestly terrible outing at the major league level. He went 3 innings, 12 hits, 5 walks, just 1 strikeout, a pair of home runs, and 11 runs, all of which were earned. This was not a great outing from him, but in his defense, he shouldn't have been put in that position. The Rangers just had nothing left, nobody else that they could call up, which I honestly don't believe. I think they could have called up somebody at the AAA level, somebody else to kind of come and eat those innings, but it just wasn't quite enough for them. He allowed 5 runs in that third inning and then came out for the fourth at 92 pitches, I believe, and you could tell he wasn't going to get anybody else out. I mean, I get wanting to save your bullpen, but he just wasn't fooling anybody. His stuff was just not good enough, and that was the big knock on him from the time he came to the major league. His fastball just, it wasn't good enough. It didn't have the velocity, didn't have the movement. The other stuff was nice. The splitter that's a major league pitch right there. He had some other offerings, and he was able to be a smart pitcher. He was able to work counts and trying to do some soft contact, but just the raw stuff wasn't quite good enough to make it at the big leagues. Hate to see it, but it just was the case for him. The Rangers gave up 4 runs in that first inning, but Adolis Garcia put the Rangers back in it with a 3-run bomb in the bottom of that first inning. And then they gave up 5 runs in the third inning and 2 in the fourth. They dropped a 4 spot in that sixth inning, had some opportunities late in this one, but just weren't able to cash in and make the most of it. 13 hits for the Rangers in this one. 13. And also 13 strikeouts. This was a big day for Kevin Gausman. He gave up 5 runs to the Rangers, and old Pop, yes, his last name is actually Pop, Zach Pop, which is just really, really fun name. He gave up 3 hits and 2 runs to the Rangers, but the rest of this pen, including former Ranger great Anthony Bass, worked an inning of shutout ball. Simber and Miza were able to close this out with 2/3 and an inning and a third of shutout ball, respectively. The Rangers just weren't quite able to cash in with those runners in scoring position like the Toronto Blue Jays were able to do. They were 7 for 18, the Blue Jays were, in this one, and including a hit by Raimel Tapia, his 6th home run of the season, that was just absolutely blasted, absolutely obliterated. I want to say it was over 475 feet on StatCast. The guy just crushed it, including a 3-double day for Bo Bichette. This is just a really, really talented lineup for the Blue Jays, and if they had gotten Kohei Arihara, it would have been a 2-run game, would have been a little bit closer, a little bit more hope in this one, but it just wasn't to be for the Rangers in this one. I wanted to give a huge shout out to John King, who worked 3 innings of scoreless ball in this. Only 1 base runner, just 1 hit that he allowed. The rest of the bullpen was also a really solid shutout inning from Jonathan Hernandez, who had been in a rough way, got into a little bit of trouble, had a hit and a pair of walks in his inning, but 2 strikeouts were able to help him get out of it without allowing a run. Dennis Santana had a shutout inning. Brett Martin had a shutout inning as well. A perfect inning with a pair of strikeouts. Good to see him getting back on track after a rough month of July for him. Kind of seeing him rebound at the end of the year is nice and some encouragement for the Rangers bullpen going forward. But that 3 innings was huge for Brett Martin. The Rangers are in a stretch where they are playing 7 games in 6 days. They have a lot of travel. It's going to be very taxing on the pen. The Rangers need starting pitching. They're finally getting Jon Gray back for the second game of this doubleheader. They need him back so desperately, and only getting 3 innings out of Kohei Arihara, which is honestly about the most I thought they could have expected. Even when they put him in the bullpen, he still wasn't very effective in this one, and in this season, just in his major league career, it's been kind of rough for him, and it's not what the Rangers were hoping to get when they signed him to that 2-year deal out of Japan. I really wish it could have made it work, but his stuff just was not quite good enough. But it's nice to see the Rangers offense rallying despite the huge deficit. Nice to see them still fighting. This is a pretty much lost season at this point, but it's nice to see them finally still fighting and clawing and scrapping for everything, even when things are pretty bleak and just kind of hard to find some hope at the end of the season. But coming up, we're going to get into the one win the Rangers had this weekend. Another solid performance by Martin Perez, another quality start, and some home runs from some people who kind of needed them. But first, this word from our sponsors. The Rangers avoided the sweep. They ended a 3-game losing streak with a 4-1 win on Sunday. A really solid top to bottom performance. A 3-hit day from Nathaniel Lowe, who continues to be absolutely fantastic. I know I talked about how great this Blue Jays lineup was. The top 3 of George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, and also you go down to 4. You have Alejandro Kirk, who was an all-star this year. He has also dropped off pretty significantly from what he did in the first half. His OPS is down to 820. I think it was around 900 at that all-star break, but it's still not quite the same drop-off we've seen from Jonah Heim, who did have a hit in this one. He had been in a rough way. Just seeing him get any hits at this point is kind of nice. He took a lot of time off. He took the final game of that Wednesday game off and had the day off to recover as well. Good to see him getting a little bit more competitive at bats out there. I know he's exhausted, been asked to catch a whole bunch, and the defense has not waned, but offensively, his bat has really fallen off quite a bit in the last couple of months since that All-Star break. But the Rangers were able to get 4 runs on the board. Like I said, that 3-hit game from Nathaniel Lowe, including a 2-run bomb from Adolis Garcia and a nice little insurance run from Leody Taveras, who got his 4th home run of the season in the 8th inning. Really needed that. A nice outing for him. Multi-hit game from Bubba Thompson. And like I talked about earlier, a rough day for Josh Jung. The 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts against Richards, Phelps, Kikuchi, Pop, Mayweather, Bass. This was a very... Actually, he did not have one against Richards. The Rangers were able to drive him out of the game really quickly. I got to this one a little bit late, so I didn't see exactly what happened in this one, but he only went an inning, a third of an inning in this one. There's just not a whole lot going for Trevor Richards. I have to believe it was some sort of injury because his pitch count wasn't anything totally insane, only 26 pitches, so I think it must have been some kind of injury. The Rangers were able to take advantage of that and take off and get the win with Martin Perez on the hill. That is your ace. That is your streak stopper. That is your guy who ends your run of bad luck, and he was able to do that in this one. 6 innings of 1-run balls, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. He has been a little bit more walk prone as of late, but his ERA is down to 2.77. 6 hits. Again, he allows some base runners, but he is able to work around all of that. Got a double play from Seager and Nathaniel Lowe in this one to kind of minimize those extra base runners. Really solid stuff from him. Shutout innings from Jesus Tinoco, Matt Moore, and Jose Leclerc were able to finish out this one. Nice to see Leclerc get back out there after giving up the not blown save, but the loss in the 1-run loss to begin this series. Good to see him get back out there. I think he's kind of cemented himself as the Rangers closer. He was in that role before his many injuries, missing basically 2 full seasons. He's got some experience in that closer's role, and Jonathan Hernandez, we've seen him struggle in some of these close late games. I didn't think it was quite enough to move him out of the closer's role, but the Rangers know what's going on a little bit better than I do. Seeing him in that multi-inning relief role, not that Jose Leclerc can't do it, but I think Leclerc has got some more closing experience. So giving him that role, him being the most veteran of this staff, he's got more time in the big leagues, more success in the big leagues than Hernandez. And it's nice to see him locking down that role and feeling confident with somebody in that closer's role with the Rangers haven't really been able to do since Joe Barlow kind of wavered and faltered around the midpoint of this season. But there are some minor league promotions that we have to get into. There have been three promotions that I didn't necessarily expect at this point in the season, but I am pleasantly surprised. Blaine Grimm has made it to AAA. He has been promoted after lighting the entire world on fire. I think it was last week, maybe the week before that, he had a stretch of 6 home runs in 5 games against Amarillo, absolutely crushing the baseball. Ended up with some really nice numbers for the end of the season. There was a little bit of struggle in there in the interim started the season pretty well, but for Frisco this year, he's got 119 games under his belt, 24 home runs, 26 doubles, a slash line of 295, 364, 508. That's an 871 OPS, which is about what we were hoping for from him this season. Maybe a little bit higher, but the home runs have come in bunches as of late. It wasn't quite there in the middle of the season. He had some really good stretches at the beginning, but he's kind of seemed like he is figuring it out at Double A. The next level is Triple A. We'll see how well he can do there in a limited time. There's actually not quite as limited as Frisco. Frisco's got, I believe, a week left in the season. They've got no more home games unless they retain that playoff spot, and they can get, I believe, one home game. But there are some guys who are coming to Frisco. I had this whole week off, or this whole week until Friday off. It would have been a nice time to have some Frisco home games so I could go see. That's right, Evan Carter and Thomas Sajaci are both coming up to Double A. Really nice seasons for both of them. Both of them are pretty young, and I have not been giving enough credit to Thomas Sajaci this season. He has played mostly second base, a little bit of third base, a little bit of shortstop as well, kind of an everywhere infielder. He is 20 years old, about 2.5 years younger than the average position player in the Sally League this year. Played in 98 games, had 14 homers, 22 doubles, and 2 triples. Hit 308 on base of 359 and slugged 487. That is a OPS of 846. Pretty decent season. Had a decent season last year. 10 home runs as a 19-year-old in Down East, low A. Really nice season for him there with an 834 OPS in 73 games. Again, played pretty much every position: second base, third base, shortstop, pretty much where he is going to be. From the reports that I have heard, I don't necessarily know that he's going to stick at shortstop. Not sure about the arm, but second and third seems like a more likely future for him, which I'm having never seen his arm, and not going to be able to see it until maybe one game this year, and maybe I'll see it next year, depending on how much I can get out there and if he is there to start the season. He is probably going to be second or third base. Now, I'll have Grant on, and hopefully this week to try and get a little bit better, more accurate picture on that guy. But he's definitely a guy who has deserved this promotion, who has done well this season, and is definitely someone to keep an eye on that I might want to have a little higher in my rankings. Now, exactly 100 games for Evan Carter. He was fantastic for Down East, a 19-year-old who is now in Double A. He's a teenager in Double A. That is a very rare thing to see. He is absolutely crushed it at every level he's been at. Only 32 games last year. The back injury was really concerning, but that small sample of what we saw from him last year and being able to have more walks and strikeouts, 34 walks and 28 strikeouts in 32 games last year, I was like, okay, that's really encouraging. There wasn't a whole lot of power, but he was an 18-year-old in full season ball, which is really encouraging. This year they promoted him to Hickory, which indicates that they really feel good about this guy. What he did in fall instructs is really encouraging. The year that they drafted him, he was a little young. When they drafted him, I believe, he might have been 17 when they drafted him. He has just turned 20 just a few weeks ago, so he's no longer a teenager in Double A. He just turned 20 on August 29th. Missed that deadline, but still, he's probably going to be in Double A for most of next season, unless he absolutely crushes it and they want to promote him to Triple A. I don't think he's going to make his Major League debut next season, but I could be proven wrong. He has just completely exceeded all expectations. The guy who fell to the second round was listed at in the 500s ish, if he was listed at all, in the draft projections of the 2020 draft. Again, that was the COVID year, and the Rangers were patting themselves on the back for what a great job they did in that draft. And you know what? I was skeptical at the time. It seems like they did a great job there. They did a really, really great job. He has crushed it. He is probably the highest ceiling of any prospect that the Rangers have position player wise right now, I'd say. I feel pretty confident in saying that. I don't know that he has the lowest floor, but it's getting lower and lower by the minute as he's creeping up through these levels. He's 20 years old. He's going to be in Double A. The reason they made this promotion, Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News pointed out that the high A single A season is done. So it's either those two guys start their off season now, or they can get a little taste of Double A before they see it next season. That's going to be really fun to watch. Hopefully I can get off for the day that they are going to be back in town. If they can maintain that playoff spot, that's going to be very, very encouraging. But I do want to touch on Jon Gray finally being back in the Rangers so desperately need him back in this rotation. I just talked about how rough it was for Kohei Arihara. We've only seen 19 starts from Jon Gray this season. Glenn Otto now has 4 more starts than him on the season and 5 1/3 more innings. That was going into this game. Actually, he had three more starts than him and 5 1/3 more innings going into today's doubleheader, where Jon Gray will start the second game of this doubleheader in Miami, which is so stupid because the Rangers have an off day on Thursday and they're flying back to Florida anyway. Now, I did some looking at the schedule for Miami and for Tampa Bay and for some of the other teams, and it wouldn't have worked out. The Rangers could have just come to Tampa Bay and then flown to Miami. But the Rangers had the weekend series in Arlington. They fly out for literally one day to Miami, have a day-night doubleheader, not even the quick doubleheader, not even the wait, 30 minutes or so after the first game and then have that second game. No, they have the first one at noon Central Time and the second one at 6 p.m. Central Time. So the Rangers have a delayed exit back to Arlington, where they literally just were, to go all the way back to Florida, to Tampa, to play a weekend series against the Rays, which is so incredibly stupid. So incredibly stupid. For so many reasons, I hated this stupid lockout. Started the season late, had to mess with the season, have these stupid random doubleheaders. The Rangers are going to have a doubleheader in a 4-game series to end the season with the Yankees. At least it's all at home. They're not going to have to travel anywhere else crazy. And I think those are these today and that doubleheader are the only ones the Rangers have left. But it's just a stupid scheduling snafu. But anyway, I'm so glad that Jon Gray is back. He has been finding his form. He was so good in the month of July. He was pretty good in the month of June for the Rangers, but really July he was finding his footing in those months and has been out for basically 6 weeks. And the Rangers staff just did not have the depth to hold up with that. It was just so rough. It was so apparent that they just did not have enough guys that were knocking down the door. I mean, Cole Winn, I do need to look up, but the first couple innings of his most recent start, I need to go look up the full line. I'll probably talk about it on tomorrow's episode. But if Cole Winn had not fallen off like he had, the Rangers would have had just that one more guy that could have kept them from having to throw so many bullpen games, could have kept them from having to use Kohei Arihara as much as they did. And, if Taylor Hearn had been able to stick in the rotation, it's just so many different things that just left this Rangers starting staff so completely stripped for parts that Jon Gray's absence was just so dang noticeable. But having him back is huge for Texas. In his last 7 starts, he pitched 38 2/3 innings, struck out 48, only walked 11 in those 7 starts with a 3.26 ERA. I just love that he was finding his way finally with the Rangers. And of course, an injury comes and takes him out. As soon as I start to think, you know what? Outside of those first, 2 IL stints in his first 2 starts, he's kind of been healthy. We think he might end up creeping up towards that 150 innings mark. No, he's going to get 3, maybe 4 starts by the end of the season. And he is at around 100 innings so far. In the month of July, he had a 2.97 ERA, 30 innings, 37 strikeouts, and just 8 walks. In the month of June, he had 6 starts, 37 2/3 innings, 44 strikeouts, and a 2.39 ERA. Everything was starting to come up Jon Gray. He was finding himself. The fastball, the slider were all fantastic. That sweeper, he was using the curveball more, and the changeup, and boom, an injury to his oblique. Because, of course, it's always the freaking oblique. It's always obliques and hammates and elbows. Those are, and I guess shoulders as well. Those are the 4 most just infuriating body parts for baseball fans. Obliques and hammates especially, because they don't even do any of the good stuff for the most part. They just kind of exist. Hammates especially, they only exist to break and take players out when they are having great seasons. The hammate bone, I believe, was the first injury that got Joey Gallo's 2019 season off track. It was also, I think, something that Willie Calhoun suffered is just a bad bone. The oblique has also begrudged many a Rangers player, and you know, kind of took out all progress on Jon Gray's season. Hopefully, he can come back, have some great starts to finish the season. He's still got 2 more years under contract. The Rangers still have him for a while, and those moments in a lost season are ones you look to and make you a little bit hopeful for the future. But I think that's all I've got to talk about today's game. I'll be back tomorrow, maybe even late tonight, with a recap of this day-night doubleheader. Then we'll talk about this 2-game series with the A's, and then they got a weekend series in Tampa. We'll see how all this goes. The Rangers staff is a little bit healthier. We finally have Josh Jung up here every day, and a little bit more hope heading into the end of the season. But I do want to give a shout out to my friend Jonathan Charks, who passed away this weekend. Jonathan was a staff writer at The Ringer, wrote about basketball, was literally one of the greatest humans I have ever had the pleasure of meeting, wearing my Mavs basketball shirt, because that's how I met him. But he cared a lot more about basketball than people. He was always there to look out for a stranger, always there to engage and make deep connections with people who, other people might not care about, or just completely random strangers. He was always one to go the extra mile to genuinely ask and care about your life, even if you were his best friend, if you were a complete stranger in his path for 5 minutes, people who would provide no benefit to being friends with, that he was just sought out that extra level of friendship. I just want to send love to his family, his wife, and his child, and just remind you to, on his behalf, just be a little kinder to people today. Hug your loved ones a little bit closer, because no moments are given. Every moment is special, and just take that extra moment, because it's worth it to make someone's day. Thank y'all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.